Hello from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. With me this morning, I have MSNBC contributor Joy Reid, Eli Lake of Newsweek and The Daily Beast, Chris Anders of the ACLU, and Amy Goodman of Democracy Now! We were talking about the nomination of John Brennan to head the CIA. He is the president's chief counterterrorism advisor, has been absolutely, by all accounts, instrumental in devising the strategy for waging this, what is no longer called officially the global war on terror, but is kinetic activities in a whole bunch of countries and a lot of targeted killing. And one of the questions I think on the table is, what role he has played in that, and also this kind of accountability question. And I thought I wanted to bring into the conversation. We were talking about the kill list, but I also wanted, when we were talking about accountability, to bring in the story of John Kiriakou, because I think it's really important. These two things are happening in the same week, which is John Kiriakou is about to go to prison. John Kiriakou is a CIA agent. On January 25th, he had a sentencing hearing. He agreed to serve 30 months as part of a plea deal. Pleaded guilty to violating the Intelligence Identities Protection Act by emailing the name of a covert CIA officer to a reporter in the midst of a reporter reporting out what was going on with the torture regime in the CIA. He is the first current or former CIA officer to be convicted of disclosing classified information to a reporter, and he is, as of now, the only person who's going to do jail time for their involvement in the torture regime. No one else is going to see the inside of a jail cell except this guy who talked to a reporter about what was going on. And then in the same week, someone who was relatively high up in the chain of command at the CIA during this period of time is nominated to head the agency. And I think it's one thing to say, to me, it's one thing to say, as I think you were making the argument before, Eli, that, look, these people put themselves on the line and they were given legal assurances and the CIA has to do their job. And actually, if you want to go after anyone, you should go after people up the chain. Joy, you were saying, look, all these other people are implicated. But then to match that with the fact this dude's going to go to jail for 30 months because he talked about the program to a reporter so that we can know about it.
He disclosed the identity of somebody undercover.
While Scooter Libby,
Eli Lake, you are a reporter. You are a reporter.
I will never defend people going to jail for that stupid identities. I mean, I agree with you. I don't like it when there are these high-level prosecutions.
Also, you do.
I agree. No, I totally agree.
You're a great security reporter. Right, I know things because people talk to you.
Yes, I agree. No, I agree. But I was just making the distinction there that from the CIA's perspective, because I sometimes feel like I need to play the role of the
That's fine. That's
dialectical balance.
That's
and I want to make it very clear, no more leak laws, no more leak investigations, and leak to me. But I would say that from the CIA's perspective, they believe that there is a huge distinction between giving up the identity of somebody who is undercover, which is why that law was basically passed after there were, I guess it was the Philip Agee book that identified the CIA station chief in Greece, and then he was later killed. It turns out that it looks like the killers knew that before the Agee disclosures, but nonetheless, there is a huge difference from the CIA's perspective between identifying somebody who's undercover and whose identity is secret and then doing something
and waterboarding someone with
true.
Legal direction. But that's from the CIA's perspective. That shouldn't necessarily be the Justice Department's perspective, is my feeling.
And
the
let's
Justice
also
Department
just remember that under President Obama, more whistleblowers have been prosecuted than under all other presidents combined.
Although those have been under the, we should make clear about what we're saying there. That's the Espionage Act, which is different than this, right? This is not the Espionage Act that he ends up going to.
And we have to remember, too, that the Vice President of the United States, his deputy Scooter Libby and Karl Rove, were never prosecuted for outing a CIA undercover operative. So I just wanted to say
that. No, of course,
neither was Dick Armitage, who was responsible for the initial.
But here's the point. Here's the point about that, right? Which is if we say, look, if we want to have an accountability moment, the accountability should have been with all those people who crafted the policy in the Bush administration, who wrote the memo like John Yoo, who notoriously wrote the subsequently revoked OLC memo, right? That talked about organ failure, right? I mean, that is just morally odious in every possible way. Well, it's the president of the United States, President Barack Obama, who made the choice, right, that they weren't going to face accountability. Correct. So, I mean, it's not just on. I mean, here is the president in January 11, 2009, basically making this argument about moving forward that has become the kind of hallmark. Take a look.
I don't believe that anybody is above the law. On the other hand, I also have a belief that we need to look forward as opposed to looking backwards. And part of my job is to make sure that, for example, at the CIA, you've got extraordinarily talented people who are working very hard to keep Americans safe. I don't want them to suddenly feel like they've got to spend all their time weren't looking over their shoulders and lawyering.
So no.
I think that's just what people should be doing, is they should be very concerned about whether or not they would go to jail. You know, last night at Riverside Church in New York, hundreds gathered to celebrate the 85th birthday of Ramsey Clark, the former U.S. Attorney General. Among one of the last times I saw Ramsey Clark was in Syracuse. He was testifying at a trial of scores of people, peace activists, who had laid down their bodies in front of the Hanford Air Base, protesting the fact that their drones are directed. Their drones, people go in, and for people to understand how drones work, you don't have to be in the field, right?
No,
Right there on a computer, and you're just killing people from the comfort of your, a mile from your house. And these people got convicted, and Ramsey Clark, the former U.S. Attorney General, was speaking out on their behalf. We have to give voice to not only the victims, because this does not increase our national security. The fact that most people in Pakistan see the U.S. as the enemy, it's not what most people in the United States understand. They're not supposed to be an enemy because of the number of drone attacks that have been going on there. I hope that this John Brennan nomination will open up a full discussion about torture and drone wars and what the U.S. is doing. That is what would be productive.
Why is that not going to happen, Eli?
Well, because the policy of killing terrorists is widely popular, and not just popular from a kind of...
It's not terrorists. We're talking about...
Right. I mean, that's precisely the question.
I got to tell you something, okay?
Civilians. Let's be clear.
Whatever you want to say about the drone program, and I would agree that in all of these calls for more transparency and less secrecy, I am with the left on this, but I would just make it very, very clear that what is the alternative in terms of
killing innocent people?
No. It's not about killing innocent people. A lot of these drone attacks have also been successful, and the fact of the matter is we don't know because it is shrouded in secrecy. So I think a more responsible view.
Eli, Stanford and NYU just did a study called Living Under Drones.
Right. Yes.
Thousands of people have been killed. Innocent people have been killed under these drone attacks. When you say, well, we got some people that were guilty, first of all, where they tried, but second of all, even if they did,
they weren't tried.
What about the thousands of people who are innocent?
I think you have to look at the fact that Ilyas Kashmiri no longer breathes, the fact that bin Laden no longer breathes, the world is safer, Pakistan is safer, and America is safer, and those are very popular. Those are very popular policies. Now, I think it is a reasonable position to say, I want all of the data. I want what the CIA knows about its civilian casualties. I want to know how they make these decisions, and I want all of that, and I'm for that. But I think the notion that the entire program is under the shroud.
And by the way, shock and awe, right? Dropping, cluster bombs all over Iraq also killed a lot of civilians. But we had a Congress that authorized the President of the United States, George W. Bush, to wage unlimited war on terrorists, to decide who those terrorists were, and to go and kill them, whether killing them with bunker buster bombs or killing them with drones. When the Congress of the United States gives to the president the power to wage war, it's very rare that an executive gives back power. That's why we have a balance of power between the executive and legislative branch.
I think a very important point. The alternative to the drone program is the hunt for the killers of Ambassador Chris Stevens in Libya, which rely on security services that are not ready and won't help people.
Let me intervene for a moment. I think that's partly a false choice. I think just so people are clear, what you're talking about is the authorization for the use of military force, which is passed essentially unanimously by both houses of Congress, which gives incredibly broad powers and which was used by the Bush administration and subsequently used by the Obama administration as the statutory legal basis for much of what they do in their conduct. Right. Though I will say, and again we come back to this, the actual reasoning for why they are able, for instance, the White House to target someone like Anwar al-Awlaki, an American citizen, right, who was put on the kill list and was killed, right, as an American citizen without due process, okay? Well, the OLC contends, we think, because of leaks to reporters, that they have a process that meets the constitutional threshold of due process. But we don't know what that legal reasoning looks like because that memo is locked behind secrecy and they won't give it up in a FOIA, and a district court judge just ruled that they don't have to give it up. And so I think there's just I just want to compartmentalize a few of the issues here because they all run together. The number of civilian casualties of the drone program, I think, is a massively important strategic consideration and a moral consideration, right? Is the ratio of terrorists killed to civilians 1 to 10, 1 to 1, 10 to 1? That matters in the calculation. Second of all, what do we know about the drone program before we can even make those moral or strategic evaluations? We don't know. And then third of all, should we be doing it at all, right? Even if we're doing it in a relatively efficient way, right? Are there alternatives to targeted killing in other countries? But the problem is that none of those things can be debated with any specificity, sophistication, or rigor in the absence of even the most basic kind of information that we do not have access to.
And I think for Eli's point about how popular these programs are, the reason the targeted killing program does poll well is because of selective leaks. The only thing that people know about the program are what's being put out there as its successes. And the reality of the program, the scope of the program, the failures of the program, the legal opinions are all being hidden from the public, and they're even being hidden from senators.
And I'll say this. As a final point. I mean, I think, and again, in these calculations, if people saw the Facebook page of Abdul Rahman Al-Laki, who's a 16-year-old kid with a Facebook page from Denver, that we killed, the American people killed, right? That would change, I think, people's way of thinking about the program. Now, again, you're saying, obviously, we weren't targeting them. That was an accident. There's collateral damage in war, and there's all sorts of arguments.
I'm willing to suspend all that because I agree with you. We don't know, and we need to get more information.
And so the Brennan confirmation hearing could be an opportunity if members of the committee are watching this. Could be an opportunity. It really could be an opportunity to ask some hard questions about that. Eli Lake of Newsweek and the Daily Beast, Chris Anders of ACLU, and Amy Goodman of Democracy Now! Thank you for joining us.
I want to thank you so much, Chris. I just want to say a shout out to the family of Aaron Swartz. You'll talk about him in a little while.
We're going to talk about him.
The young man who just hung himself, who was fighting for a more transparent world.
One area of American life where wrongdoing has been strongly condemned after this.